Celtic world has more than its share of the supernatural, legends, and myth, which sometimes cross the line into reality. I tell those tales here on Dark Celtic History. The plague victims of Mary King's Close. Whenever people die in large numbers, you're bound to find a ghost story or two. Mary King's Close in Edinburgh is no exception. The partially walled-up, claustrophobic alley area below the city chambers used to be a place where the city's poor lived and, well, when the bubonic plague arrived in the 17th century, died. As the city grew, the upper levels of the close were eventually demolished, leaving only the creepy, narrow basement levels that you can still see today. As a frightening claustrophobic place where people died en masse, the close has long enjoyed a reputation as a site haunted by the victims of plague. The most famous ghost here is a young girl known as Annie. In 1992, Annie thoroughly scared the bejesus out of a Japanese psychic taking a guided tour. A Japanese psychic had been pretty unimpressed by Edinburgh's Mary King's Close until she stepped into a particularly dank and eerie room. She was immediately overwhelmed by feelings of cold, hunger, and sickness, and then when she tried to stumble away from the room, a small ghostly hand tried to grab her leg, causing her to stumble and fall to the ground. Then an invisible hand held her there, unable to move for a few moments until she was helped up and got as far away from that place as possible. Edinburgh history of Mary King's Close is as ruthless as you would believe. There are many stories that the plague-stricken poor tenants were walled up into their buildings and left to die. But for the most part, plague carriers were actually moved to a quarantine zone outside the city walls, and the dead were properly disposed of by gravediggers. It's still a fairly tragic fate, though. And, to make things worse, the area that was a quarantine zone, well, it's got ghost stories as well.